Alright, this is Tony, Heal and Reveal. Just trying to do a quick Orgonite making session. I'm using the cheap route, or the quick route. I'm using quick set epoxy. This is some I have left over. I got my gemstones out here. I got some herbs, a couple of magnets, some metal shavings, the resin, the stir stick, and the cast. I've already cleansed everything. I've already set my intentions. These are going to be protection pieces. I'll spray them one last time with my oral protection spray. First thing I'm going to do is add the resin to the casting pot, and this should be enough to probably make one little tiki. Alright, so once you put the resin in there, then you're kind of like on a time period. You're going to have to go ahead and stir it. The resin is the epoxy itself and the hardener, so when you're stirring it, you're getting into a point of activation. So you can immediately start to smell it, and you can see where it starts to turn a little milky. So you figure out where you're going to pour it, kind of like get you enough to get a base started, and get the base in there, and then from there you can add your components. And remember, depending on the timer, the set time on the resin, on how quick you're going to have to get this done. If this was a 5-minute, you're pretty screwed. You got to get on it. So that was the metal shavings, and then I'm going to add some herbs. A lot of people don't add herbs to theirs, but I do to mine. I'm adding some red aventurine, just a couple of little chips, some clear quartz. Some people get all fancy, but these are just my little standard protection pieces that are for me. I'm not trying to sell these. And carnelian. Now with the carnelian, then I also had a turquoise I wanted to add, and a jade, and 2 magnets. Now with these magnets, they're pretty powerful, so I'm trying to keep them a little bit away from each other, but already they grabbed each other. So I'm going to let them stay married up. I'll put my little turquoise back in there, and I'm going to add the rest of the resin, and I'm going to try and fill the cast all the way up. Now, in a true sense of making orgonite, it should be layered, organic to inorganic. You can count the resin itself as organic because it is made from, petroleum products, which are nothing but decomposed matter, or you could add in true organics such as the herbs, and then the inorganic such as the gemstones, and even in some sense, or in a large sense, really the metal shavings. So I think with the original William Wright design, he had it like with peat and then wool, and just layered them sheet to sheet and just kept going from there. So now remember, I was just showing you that was all I had left in that container. It's barely making it all the way up, but it's up enough for me. If I had more of this material left, I'm pretty much milking it right now. I would have added another layer of herbs and then a little bit of more gemstones, and then covered it to where it's flush in the cast. But being that I'm just trying to do this real quick with the residual that I have without opening up a whole brand new tube of resin, this is going to be pretty sufficient. It'll just be a smaller tiki mold, but it's setting nonetheless. This epoxy right here is 5 minutes. So again, like I was saying, I was thinking this was a 15-minute one. So yeah, I really am having to hurry up. Once you start getting it in there, by the time you get to minute number 2, I am going to do this, add just an extra little bit of metallic shavings. By the time you get to minute number 2 under this 5-minute quick set, it's already starting to heat up. And by heat up, I do mean heat up. It gets hot and it starts to go into that bonding process. And once it starts to bond, everything that's in there is pretty much going to get stuck in there. Just like everything that's left in your receptacle that you mixed it in is stuck in there. Like already it's starting to stick. I can leave that stick standing up in here in about 3 minutes. It's going to be stuck in there unless I forcefully move it out. So right now, let me grab this from you. Thank you, sir. So basically all I did was I just used the residual of these little sticks just to make one little quick orgonite. And I mean, that's if you're just going to be making one here and there, then you can use this quick set epoxy. If you're going to be making mass quantities, then you might want to invest in the resin canister and the hardener tube and just do it separate. But me, quick little on-the-go protection piece, This is sufficient for me. And you're just going to let that set, and I'll try and watch it for a couple of seconds. You'll see where it start to bubble up. It's going to start enacting more or less the piezoelectric effect. It's going to start squeezing the crystals and gemstones that are in there. Most crystals will exhibit the piezoelectric effect, which means that the tighter you squeeze on it, it starts to actually produce a charge. In my experience with Orgone, just the squeezing effect itself, the compilation of the organic and the inorganic is what will bring in the Orgone energy, and then everything else that's already included in it, to include the magnets, the herbs, and the shavings, and the other gemstones. They kind of enhance the signature that they would already send off on their own. So all you're doing is just compiling energy and drawing in a known and measurable energy source such as Orgone. And you know, some people make their Orgonite and they don't really worry about the curing and the compression of it. Like this epoxy here is 1200 psi. The higher, to me, the higher the psi strength, the tighter you're going to squeeze it, and the more energy you're going to produce. But it's all based on your intentions anyway. And this is again a product that's intended to be a protection piece, but it's a protection piece for myself. So of course I might have a little bit extra energy in it. But the closer it gets towards its curing time, the more you'll start to see those bubbles tighten up, and sometimes you'll see them start to kind of like cook in, and you can kind of tell that it's forming. That's pretty much about it. I mean, I could sit here and hold it and watch this thing for about 3 or 4 more minutes, but I don't feel like that's necessary. I will, you know, take a picture and post what it looks like once it's cured. It will be hot, like it's already getting hot. And if you touch it right now from up under the bottom, the mold itself should be hot, especially with a 5-minute cure time. So just be careful, let it set. If you have like little extra edges, like I already see where some of the resin's hanging off on the corner at the bottom, once you pull it out, you'll be able to get it out real quick. But just, you know, trim it, shape it. I like to wash them. I'll give them an oral wash, or I'll wash them in lavender water to try and get rid of the resiny smell. And then what I do is I'll put them in the freezer with a shot glass of water, and I'll power check them and see what kind of ice signatures I can get. When you freeze water next to Orgonite, the water itself takes on the Orgone energy, and you get energy eggs and energy hairs and all kind of shapes and funky little things go on with it. So that's one way you can check and see what's going on with your Orgonite. And I'm just going to let this one set. Probably got about 4 more minutes, but I'm not going to hold you guys up. Again, just a little quick makeshift, quick in and out Orgonite. Peace and wholeness.